Robyn, toucans were gregarious, and she'd promised the bird's absent owner that she'd keep him at the church, where interacting with the congregation would fulfill his social needs. "It's for your own good," I informed Nimitz. With Robyn away, her office didn't get anywhere near the traffic it usually did, and going into the office for the sole purpose of amusing the toucan was yet another burden on the already overworked volunteers. Frankly, most of the volunteers either didn't bother with Nimitz or ran out of time. So even though Nimitz was not only noisy but incredibly messy, I was taking him home, where my noisy, messy family could see to his social needs. My cousin, Rose Noir, with her passion for everything vegetarian and organic, would probably relish the complicated challenge of his fruit and nut-based diet. The boys would love talking to him, and perhaps I could even pawn him off on my grandfather, who was not only a biologist and a bird fancier, but owned a private zoo. Surely the Caerphilly Zoo's aviary staff members were the best qualified to take proper care of Nimitz, and then... My visions of a toucan-free summer were rudely interrupted by a loud hammering noise. "What now?" I muttered. I raced out of Robyn's office and stood for a moment, trying to figure out where the sound was coming from. The back of the church, apparently. I strode into the sanctuary and down the center aisle toward the altar. I didn't turn on the lights, partly to keep from alerting whoever was doing the hammering that I was hunting them down, and partly because I didn't need to. The full moon shone through the soaring two-story stained glass windows along both sides of the sanctuary, casting great mosaics of multicolored light over the pews and the altar. I could see just fine. The noise wasn't coming from the sanctuary. Possibly from downstairs. Or, more likely, from the churchyard. I reached the back wall and peered out one of the relatively tiny non-stained glass windows. The churchyard would have been the perfect setting for filming a scary movie. One of those over-the-top Hammer films with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. The full moon cast spooky shadows from the gravestones and the weeping willows. And at the far end of the churchyard, another small multicolored splash of light spilled over the flagstone path that led to the crypt. "Someone's in the crypt," I said aloud. And then I immediately corrected myself, the columbarium. Both Robyn and Mother were adamant about using the proper term for a room whose walls were filled with niches to hold the ashes of parishioners who'd chosen cremation. But to me, it would always be the crypt. It was a surprisingly large underground room that had been hollowed out of the side of the steep hill at the far end of the churchyard. In the middle of its gray stone front wall, a large medieval-style oak door with impressive wrought iron hinges guarded the entrance to the crypt. As if deciding belatedly that the door made the place look too forbidding, the architect had added long, narrow stained glass panels on either side of the entrance. Stained glass panels that were now lit from within, a dead giveaway that someone was inside. My first impulse was to race out and accost the intruder. But I'd recently had a discussion with my dad, an avid reader of mystery books, about the too stupid to live syndrome. "It's one thing to be a strong, independent heroine," he said, "and quite another to go racing unarmed into danger instead of sensibly calling 911. People just don't do that in real life. I know why. Authors do it, of course, because if the heroine just sat by and let the police handle everything, there wouldn't be a book. But still, they should at least make an effort to have their heroines behave intelligently." "And why are you picking on heroines?" I'd replied. "Aren't there male protagonists who race into danger? And yet I bet you'd call them brave for doing exactly the same thing that gets women labeled too stupid to live." "An excellent point," Dad had exclaimed, and we'd gone on to have a lively discussion about sexism in literature and film. But I remembered the too stupid to live syndrome. So instead of